Dukachi Ghost means story of Jeev. And second book, that is on the biography of Charles Darwin. That is also in local language there, that is Marathi. And the recent book which I published, that is the footprints of culture on the path of evolution. That is a recent book which has got an award. So, shall we start? Before going to the subject on evolution and genetics, let us ask ourselves 3 questions. First is, who am I? The second is, where did I come from? And the third is, who created this nature around me? Many simple answers have been given in the past, which were not correct. But the science has tried to give the reasonable and correct answers, and most of the scientists, they come from this country. I am very, very much happy that I learned science from these scientists, Copernicus, Galileo, then Charles Darwin, Gregor John Mendel. All these scientists have tried to uncover the mystery which surrounded us from thousands of years. So, let us start answering these questions. Who am I? Where did I come from? And what is the nature around us? Who created it? Let us not go to the simple answers which were given in the past, but let us try to understand what the scientists do. The book which I have written on Darwin and the book which I have written on the evolution, footprints of culture on the path of evolution, mainly human evolution. So let us try to understand what is evolution. Evolution is a steady progress in the development of nature around us. So there are 3 topics in it which I will try to explain to you. The first is the birth of the universe, origin of the universe. The second is the origin of solar system, then origin of earth, origin of life, and evolution of life, by which we were created and we are sitting all of us together. The first, the universe was created by Big Bang. What is Big Bang? The space around us was a vacuum. It had energy. See, energy and matter, but that was scattered. It started concentrating in one point, one particular circle, that could not bear the tension of the forces of energy and matter. So it exploded. This explosion is called as Big Bang. Big Bang gave rise to the matter and energy again and many galaxies. Galaxies are of various shapes, round, straight, serpentine. Our galaxy, which is called as the Milky Way galaxy, is serpentine and is like a roller pin. It is swollen in the center and tapering at 2 ends. At one of the ends is our solar system. Our solar system contains star, that is called sun, and around it there are planets. One of the planets is Earth, which we belong to. Earth was a hot ball in the beginning, but it started cooling down, and then various elements, atoms were there, they start reacting with each other. So various molecules were formed, such as water, 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen, methane, ammonia. Such molecules were formed. These started combining with each other, and one big molecule was created that is called as the ribonucleic acid. This ribonucleic acid was capable of giving rise to many ribonucleic acids. That is, reproduction was its main property. Ribonucleic acid is such that it has some chemicals like adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine, which are now called as the triplet codes. Many triplet codes, they form a gene, and a gene is responsible for giving various characters which the next organisms got. The first cell was formed from this process. A simple cell was formed like this in this process. From a simple cell, 2 cells, then 4 cells, and many cells. Many cells, a group of many cells, they started functioning certain specific functions, started giving rise to certain functions. So then, the first organism which was formed, it gave rise to second organism, third organism, and the genes which were there, they gave various properties to these different cells, and many such organisms were formed. Variety of organisms were formed, plant cells, animal cells, and in this way the process of evolution started. Then during the long process, the individuals which we belong to, the Homo sapiens, were formed. Homo sapiens origin is primates. According to Darwin, these primates were living in African jungles for food and the shelter. But due to drought and high rain, the jungles started dwindling down, so there was scarcity of food and shelter. So the primates which were living on the top of the trees had to come down and stand upright, and they walk, finding the food and shelter elsewhere. In South Africa, the first ancestor of our category, that was formed, that was rather actually came out from a common ancestor which is Homo heidelbergensis. Homo heidelbergensis was found later, but previous to that, the chimpanzee, the common ancestor of chimpanzee and common ancestor of human being split into 2 branches. One was chimpanzee, the other was the Sahelanthropus chadensis. It is called as Sahelanthropus chadensis because its fossils were discovered in the country Chad, in the Sahel region of the country Chad. So it's called as Sahelanthropus chadensis. So Sahelanthropus chadensis and chimpanzee. Chimpanzee remained as it is, but Sahelanthropus chadensis start evolving. And during the process of evolution, 31 species of ancestors were formed. Ours is a 31st species, which is called as Homo sapiens. it was formed from the split of Homo heidelbergensis 2 lakhs years ago. And Homo sapiens start walking down, and they came from South to North Africa. In North Africa, there groups of similar Homo sapiens finding for the food and shelter. So when there was no food and no shelter, they started asking each other, from your side, is there any opportunity to have food and shelter? So that was the call of friendship. And from that friendship, the culture was born. Human culture was born there. And about 50,000 years ago, the beginning of culture started. And first, the Homo sapiens were living in the rocky shelters called caves. The development of the brain was the main reason for the development of Homo sapiens. Our first ancestor, Sahelanthropus canadensis, had a brain of capacity 350 centimeters. Now we have slowly Sahelanthropus canadensis, as it started evolving, gave birth to 31 species. The last one is Homo sapiens. We were formed from Homo heidelbergensis, the 29th species. And one gave rise to Homo sapiens, the other, which was split at 5 lakhs years ago, it developed into Neanderthals. Neanderthals and Homo neanderthalensis and Homo sapiens. For some time, the Homo and Neanderthals and Homo sapiens had the same shelter, particularly in this part of the Europe, in Britain itself, Neanderthals were there. The brain capacity, which was 350 cubic centimeters in our first ancestor, it grew in Neanderthals to about 1,550 cubic centimeters, and in Homo sapiens it came down to 1,400 because of the reason of giving birth to the kids. The Neanderthals had a very big brain than us, and we had certain smaller brains. Now you will ask me a question, then why Neanderthals were destroyed? The reason is, Neanderthals, though their brain was large, there were no sufficient nerve cells, nerve fibers, which could connect each other and start messages from one cell to another cell. That was not the case in human Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens, the connections grew, and the messages, which we call it as thought process, started in Homo sapiens. And these Homo sapiens start thinking. So, and secondly, they had the capacity to speak. The language also developed in Homo sapiens. So they could communicate with each other and find out various places for shelter and food. About 50,000 years ago, the first sense of culture came into the thinking of Homo sapiens. So Homo sapiens, when they were living in the rocky shelters, they tried to express their thought process in the form of just painting certain pictures, or simply giving the straight and horizontal lines with the help of the help of the pencils they created from the charcoal or another rock. So expression of thought was started, and that gave rise to the art. Paintings, various paintings of their surroundings, how the animals, other animals kill other animals for food, and that started. And then when they started asking for shelter and food to other Homo sapiens, they traveled throughout the region, and there they got the shelter, and wherever they were there, they gave rise to certain art. They also created the flute, like the organ, from the vultures' bones when they were sitting around a fire. So then they also tried to communicate with each other in such a way that they could find other places. So Homo sapiens, which were first in Africa, and then South Africa, and then North Africa, they started going to other places. They crossed the Red Sea, came to Arabia, and from Arabia they went westward into Europe, and to the east side to India, China, and from Indian coast to Australia, and one group which went to the north. One went to Europe, the other to Asia, Siberia, and from Siberia to Alaska, and from Alaska to the North America, from North America to South America. So all these regions he traveled, and wherever they get, they tried to create a culture there. There are various arts. So we will find different types of arts, art in these regions of the world. Then, about 10,000 years ago, they started settling down to a particular place where they could get the source of water, the source of food, and there they started settling, and they started agriculture there. Wherever they were staying around their residence, they sowed seeds from the jungle plants, and they started growing it, and agriculture was started. Agriculture forced them to stay at one place. So that place gave rise to small villages. Many villages, they came together, they formed the cities, and these settlements gave rise to what is called as human civilization. That is, as they were living together, they were finding the various aspects of or other ways of living and shelter. So from there, various civilizations also developed in different parts of the world. The first was here on the banks of Nile, where Egyptian civilization was created, was formed. Then there is Indus Valley civilization on the banks of Indus, river Indus, and from there to China, where they found on the banks of Yangtze River the Chinese revolution. And those who went to America, North America, South America, various civilizations were found, the Inca civilization and others. So various civilizations were formed. Now what is civilization? Civilization is a way of life wherein different persons which were doing different jobs, and due to this, various groups called as classes were formed, and these classes, they gave rise to different communities, and in this way the civilization started developing. Our human civilization, see, we will find that in various regions there are different region-wise civilizations. In India, we understand the Indus Valley civilization. From Indus Valley civilization was destroyed because of the climatic reasons, not the Aryans which they came from the Eurasia. We call Aryans the Homo sapiens which were living in the part of Europe and part of Asia. They were called as Eurasians. They had big beards, and their job was to just tame the animals such as sheep, such as horses. So they came towards India for good shelter and good food, and they came near the Indus Valley. There they developed the Indus Valley civilization. Some of them came from Zagros mountain, where Homo sapiens had already came there. So they together formed the Indus Valley civilization, and this Indus Valley civilization was destroyed because of the climatic reasons, and Aryans, which were coming from, came to this place, northwest India, and from northwest India they spread to the region of Ganges, and there they developed. Some of the Indus Valley civilization people, they were forced to go to the south of India, and others, they had to live with the Aryans there. Aryans and these people, they created a particular race there, and there they gave rise to another the culture, which was a caste culture, wherein various groups, castes, were formed. The most important thing which changed the entire nature of the human living of the human beings. From there, we understand that the various regions of the world now are with various types of culture and civilizations. And here, our civilization is flourishing because of the discovery of science, discovery of art, discovery of architecture, and so on. And so we are very in very good position here. Education, the knowledge of science, knowledge of art, knowledge of architecture, everything flourished henceforth, and it is going to flourish further. So we must understand that the brain of the Homo sapiens, which is 1,400 cubic centimeters, that gave rise to the thought process, and this thought process gave rise to different ideas which created science, architecture, art.
Genetics, variation, so much to do with human evolution, brain science, nervous system, culture, changes in terms of science, understanding, knowledge, education in the arts, and also human impact more recently on the environment. Thank you very much.